Hey guys, what is up? It's BEC Plumbing. Well, the Kohler Kingston water guard is on the setup. This is what it looks like. Also, I've sanded down some of this epoxy to make it smoother. Just tightening these bolts, which for those of y'all who don't know, when you're tightening a wall mount toilet, you want to leave either the top left or the top right bolt hand tight. You don't want to tighten it. You want to leave either the top left bolt or the top right finger tight when you're putting a wall mount toilet in. Evidently, that's what when I watched the video on how to install a wall mount toilet, that's what they said. But generally, you can tighten them like a quarter turn, or you can tighten them like half a turn each and be just fine. But generally speaking, you want to leave either the top left or the top right finger tight and tighten all the rest with a wrench. And it can be either the top left or the top right, it doesn't matter. But anyways, here's a flush. This thing flushes great. Looks so good on the character. This is the brand. I don't know if you can see this, but that's the brand of carrier I got. It says it on the bolts that hold. This is the carrier I got. I'm just using a somewhat basic setup with just drying that off. I don't want to get this really wet, but if you're wondering, I am getting linoleum tiles for this, and I'll make another video of this on the setup when I get the linoleum tiles. But this is super duper cool. Let me just say that. It's not 100% finished. I still got to get the linoleum tiles to put on it. But even so, this is cool. I used a neoprene seal to put the toilet on because the carrier actually came with a neoprene seal. Personally, I prefer wax but since all my wall mount toilets are new old stock, including this one, and I don't want to get a bunch of wax on them, I used a neoprene seal. I generally use wax with my floor mount toilets, though. I use wax seals because I just prefer wax. This is the logo. This is what the toilet looks like from the front. I don't know exactly how tall this is. I'm pretty sure the carrier is a standard height carrier, but I have a few pieces of wood put right there to bolt it on because I couldn't bolt it directly onto the wood. And it also needed to be high enough. I actually had to lower this a little bit, so I have some extra pipe from this because I had to lower it a tiny bit to make it high enough. And here's the 1.6 Kohler Kingston right here. I took it off temporarily so I could put this on. This is still awesome. I also sanded down some of the epoxy in here. Also, I am going to paint over this. I bought some paint to paint over this epoxy so it'll look a lot nicer. I do plan to install this if I ever get a house that has wall mount toilets, like 4-bolt wall mount toilets, or if I ever build my house. I am going to install this someday along with this one and the aft wall. I'm also going to install the aft wall someday. But even so, this is pretty cool. For some reason, this spud fits super great on this toilet, but I have trouble getting it on this toilet. It's really awkward. I apologize if this toilet is kind of dirty. Let me get something to wipe that off. Also, I found out in one of the videos, one of the rags I was using to test the toilets was like super thick, so it doesn't pass through as well. But I decided I just want to see how this does with a rag on this setup. Looks like there's the rag. It drains into this pool right here so that it doesn't get as much water on the setup. I do plan on getting something to waterproof this wood. And this toilet actually, I'm not going to sit on it, but it holds plenty of weight. I'm not going to stand on it or anything because I don't want to risk it, because Vintage Kohler said that there's supposed to be some sort of fitting that goes on this type of carrier to help it support the weight. But yeah. Works great. I will say that. I need to find some way to waterproof this wood, or so that if it gets water under it, though I don't think it's really that big of a deal because it doesn't get that much water under it, and it's not. I have a neoprene seal on it to prevent this from leaking, because when I first tested this out, I didn't have this pipe attached as thoroughly as I do now, so it was leaking a little bit. And actually, for this toilet, the neoprene seal was a little thick, so there's a little bit more spacing right there than there is like on the top, which is weird. Whereas for this toilet, the neoprene seal is like the perfect size, and it actually fits better on the American Standard aft wall, which will be on this setup sooner or later. Maybe not right now, but this is pretty cool. I want to get something to maybe like direct the water out of here so that it doesn't go over here. And though it doesn't look like it's getting to any of the vital parts of the setup, like right here, because it should not be getting to this point, because I don't want it to weaken the bolts or any threads I have right here, though it doesn't look like it is going to, because it's not getting that much water on it. Let's do a flush with the seat closed. All right. So, this toilet looks, this setup I made just looks so cool. It's really, to be honest, nothing like most setups I've seen for wall mount toilets. Most of the time, they just put a carrier in the toilet. I wanted to put a wall up because I thought that would look really cool. It took me several hours to build this too, and I spent actually that's if you combine all the time. It took several hours, because I spent one day working on it and then I spent the next day working on it, and it took me combined like 8 hours to build this. So it was quite a bit of work. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if it took 8 hours. It was like 6 to 8 hours to complete this. Something like that. Here's this. But this is super cool. It looks, to be honest, it looks kind of real, almost. Like, it looks almost like a real restroom, in a way. I mean, it's not obvious. It's obviously not a real restroom, but it kind of looks like it. I just took a piece of plywood on the bottom. I need to find some way to keep water from getting over here. Maybe if there's like a different place I could put this to help prevent water, because I kind of knew I was going to run into this problem. Though it doesn't look like water's really getting into areas where it matters as much. Like looks like a little bit of water is getting there. I just don't want a bunch of... That's what the toilet looks like. Yeah, this is pretty cool. I'm thinking I may weaken the pressure a little bit, and I could do a really weak flush. I originally planned to make a carrier setup out of wood and do that, but then I found this carrier for relatively inexpensive. It was relatively inexpensive, so and I had enough money to buy it, so I bought it. I didn't want to really because most carriers are like at least like $400, and this one was only like $170. It was $164 actually, but that's why I bought it. Anyways, this toilet works quite well. Let's weaken the pressure a little bit more. Super weak. That was super weak. I actually want to try a test that it didn't pass last time, but I want to see if it'll pass it this time with a thinner rag. Let me turn the pressure all the way up again. I'm gonna see, though I doubt it will pass this. I'm gonna see if it will pass a washcloth and a grocery bag. I don't think it will, but let's try. It didn't, but still, even though it didn't, it's still an epic toilet, because you can't really expect... Actually, none of my toilets so far have been able to pass that, so you can't really expect the toilet to just pass that most of the time. But I'll do one more flush and the... That is it. Thank you for watching.